My 31M wife, 36F, has lived in America for 5 years, but it seems like she never left China. I met my wife, who speaks perfect English, in China about 8 years ago. We have lived together in the US for 5 years and she is convinced she wants to live here, have a family, house, and all of that. The problem is that she works at a Chinese company, only watches Chinese news, eats Chinese food, etc. Now with this big election coming up, she told me she didn't really know much about the candidates and didn't know why she should care. I was very upset and I told her that all of this affects our lives, and she said me asking her to know what is going on in America feels like I'm giving her a homework assignment. She was even offended my parents were trying to talk to her about the election and get her views. Meanwhile, I spend 20 hours a week learning Chinese for her family, so I can understand them better and understand their shows. With my wife, it's not just politics. She doesn't follow anything happening in America unless it is covered in Chinese media. She couldn't even tell you what movie is out. I tried explaining that it is very lonely for me to not be able to have a conversation about anything that isn't China related, and she said if it is important I should just tell her and then we can talk about it, but if I tell her, and she has no view on her own besides what I say, it's like I'm talking to myself. I'm trying to be understanding, but I'm at the point where I can't sleep thinking about this and I'm ready to go to marriage therapy. Does anyone have any advice before I have to go down that road? Marriage therapy isn't some sort of scary last resort step. It just helps couples to communicate better, and the earlier you do it, the better off you will be. I would suggest going down that route and not looking at it as a failure but a step in the right direction. TBH, a therapist probably has better input than strangers on the internet. In her defense, I have no idea if there are movies out. She might be homesick, and the food she eats, shows she watching is probably comforting to her. Also, mind you that she used to live in China for basically her whole life before marrying you, and in China you don't vote. So not having an interest in politics seems fair, and not everyone is going to be interested in politics. Do you guys have common interest that you share that you guys can spend time doing together? Trying new hobbies together, like cooking a meal from a recipe you found online, and it doesn't have to be Chinese food. Marriage counseling sounds like a good idea and can help you guys build a more solid base for the marriage. To be fair, when I lived in Shanghai, way too many expats went the extra mile to avoid the local places and culture and moved in Anglo-centric circles. What Hop's wife is experimenting is very common for lots of expats and immigrants. He's only suffering it so much because they come from different countries. P.S. People do vote in China. Is there a way to get over a fetish? I, 21F, have a fetish that I really hate. Basically, when I was younger, for years, my stepsister would have sex with my crush and lock me in the closet. I could still see them through the cracks, and hear them. Weirdly, it really turned me on. Since I've had this fetish where I think of my boyfriend having sex with my friend or another woman, that's the only thing that can make me orgasm. But afterward, the thought of him cheating makes me sad and almost repulsed by him. I just want to be able to orgasm without having to think of that. I've tried everything, but ultimately I go back to thinking of that. Is there really any way to stop it? You experienced a traumatic sexual experience as a child. Even though it was visual and not physical, the psychological impact is still very real. I believe the only way for you to work through this is to find a therapist that deals in sex and intimacy. Never, ever, feel guilty or bad for your feelings. It is very normal considering what you experienced. Sincerely wishing you the best. This sounds like trauma, right? What kind of messed up stepsister did she have? That's emotional abuse to the max. Have you tried therapy? I know what you mean, but mine's more because I'm a younger guy. I've thought about it. I'm not sure if normal therapy would work, or do you need a sex therapist? You were abused by your stepsister. This was abuse. You need a professional. First, be kind to yourself. You are not a bad person for having a fetish or for wanting to get rid of it. Second, therapy. Lots of fetishes are born out of trauma. Find a therapist or sex therapist who treats sexual trauma. Edit, ex-wife left for AP and returned after 10 years and asks to take her back. Thank you for such response. I have missed a lot of detail to tell you guys. First is that I have divorced her before marrying M. I think she don't know as she was nowhere to be located. Second is that I have written L instead of M by mistake. I had full custody of my son as X was nowhere in the picture, but now she is back, so I don't know if my full custody will be maintained or not. Also, my post has been removed, so I am putting original text here, seeking advice on how to handle the situation. Me 34M, my ex-wife 35F, call her X, my neighbor AP. My neighbor's wife 37F, call her M. Me and my wife married in 2009. We had our baby in 2010. In November 2010, while she was asleep, a message pooped on her phone and was a flirty message. Checked on her phone and it was from our neighbor. I went through every single message, which included sexting, sharing nudes, and even had planned meetups at hotels. This was going on from the first week into our marriage. I felt like my world crumbled in front of me. I took screenshots of every message and saved on my phone. Next day I contacted M and let her know about the affair. They were married for 4 years and had their first baby almost exact same time as we had ours. I confronted my wife and told her that I am going to give her divorce. She started crying and everything else, but I did not consider it. I also did paternity test on our child, son, because the affair timeline was same as conception date. After 2 days, when I come home from work, our baby was crying in our bed and X was nowhere to be seen. Then I found a letter of her telling that she did not love me and she had left with AP and to not contact them. I knew this was coming, but I didn't believe that a mother can leave her child, was about 6 months alone, and can run off with her lover. I then went to M's house. She had received same letter by her husband. I felt sorry for her as she was going from postpartum depression, had her baby just a few months ago and was left alone. Also, paternity test result came back and he was my son. I tried to contact X family, but they also didn't know where she was and was shocked by her behavior. Her father even said that if she ever came back she would not be allowed to enter their house. They basically disowned her. Elle was very supportive. She began coming to my home to watch kids and even breastfed both of them, her and mine. As time passed, we were like family. My son called her mom and had known only her as mom. We also decided to go on dates. We engaged a year later and married in 2013. We had our first child in 2015. We often discussed things about our exes and how we were often disrespected by them. We were happy family. In 2018, when my son accidentally saw a picture of my ex, picture after birth, so it included X, me and him. So we decided to tell him that her birth mother X had died in car accident years ago and Elle took care of him since he was 6 months old. 2 days ago, I received an anonymous email. I opened it and it read, "I want to see my son and want my family back. We are not divorced yet." I knew it was X. I showed this to Elle. Elle started freaking out and asked me if I would take her back. I calmed her down and told her that she was an ugly past and I would never leave you. I would never take her back. Now I am confused what to do. I will definitely not take her back, but should I let her meet my son or not? Should I take my son's opportunity to have connection with her birth mother? If you do decide to let her see your son, I would have her go through your lawyers. You want to make sure you and your family are protected and that if she does see him, it's supervised and set up regularly so she's not coming into your son's life like a wrecking ball and causing him all kinds of grief and confusion. Yes, do everything through lawyers. Everything, all communications. Just give your attorney her info. Let them do it. The peace of mind will be worth the money. Therapist here. Don't lie to your kids about things like this. And the lie you chose was awful. If she's not, she can show and expose your lie. And it sounds like that's exactly what she is going to do. Here is my advice. Non-professional. Tell your kid the truth. Get a lawyer for you and Elle right now. She is entitled to custody. She can go to the school, the doctor, wherever, because it's all legal until family court says otherwise. Once you have a lawyer, go to court, establish abandonment, get sole physical and legal custody. Prepare for a fight, you might be facing one. Prepare for her to show up. This means you warn the school/daycare, warn your family, warn your neighbors, your church, your soccer coach and your pediatrician. Delete all of your social media accounts. It It doesn't matter if they're private, they're not safe. Put her family on an information diet. Put everyone on an information diet. Do not let anyone see your kids unsupervised. Make sure the kids really know not to talk to strangers. Her family may accept her back and try to help her. This is not going to go away until you make it go away. I've been in a family dynamic similar to this. In my experience, it would do more harm to your son than good. When he is 18, you can tell him the whole story and let him decide. As an adult, your ex made the decision to leave. If you truly did get a divorce, I would fight with everything I have to maintain custody. She left. You stayed. She's holding on to the past. Or building a new future. She is not going to be a part of your future story. When the time is right, you can give the choice to your son. I would not wait too long to tell the son, because I think the ex would maybe try to contact him and manipulate the truth to make up look like the bad guy. 1. Telling the kids that your ex died is wrong. You should never have done that. Your son, and likely your other kids, will need therapy, or at the very least, you should consult a psychologist to get advice regarding how to tell them the truth. The more you lie, the likelier he will eventually go live with her and believe whatever excuse she gives him. 2. Assuming you have an actual judgment that gives you full custody, you can ignore her communication entirely or get a lawyer to send her a letter saying visitation is not in the child's best interest. You can then either wait for her to file in court asking for visitation, or you can proactively attempt to have her parental rights terminated, perhaps also having his actual mother adopt him. Child support doesn't usually have an impact on custody, but a reminder that she has not paid child support for 10 years and that there are still many years left where it should be due can help as well. However, only through formal lawyer letter, not by responding directly. 3. You might not be able to prevent visitations from happening. At the very least, ask for a very slow progression with short visits supervised by a social worker or psychologist. 4. Did your wife's ex-husband reappear as well? Expect that he might show up too. 5. Don't panic. Absolutely not. She was toxic 10 years ago and obviously hasn't changed. She will end up hurting all of you so much more than she already had. No. Coming from a child abandoned by their mother who only showed up every 3 years because stepbrother's dad tried to convince her she needed to be part of my life.